What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, we're going to be breaking down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar thus far, what the news is saying about Tesla that's very important, and what the charts are suggesting for all these different tickers. But before I break anything down, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 6 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks plus 6 months of level 2 data, and putting in $25,000 or more guarantees you 70 free stocks plus 12 months of level 2 data. The offer ends in just 11 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. In my video from the morning, I said that Tesla may pop and drop today. Then intraday, I was saying that Tesla could try to hold these levels. Instead, we actually got a one push at the very end of the day, but besides that, everything else was spot on. Now, when it comes to the market and how things are moving, we have some very important data coming out for tomorrow that could dictate the volatility we see. An hour before the market opens, we have the non-farm payrolls data coming out. We have the unemployment rate coming out, not to mention more payrolls data, which is going to be very important. Then at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report, the 5-year inflationary expectations report, and more data from Michigan. Now, just to be clear, the data coming out an hour before market open is the most important sector of data from the payrolls to the unemployment, and those are going to be very, very important. Now, could the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report cause some volatility? It sure can, but it's not going to be as significant as the unemployment numbers, so watch for this all very, very carefully. We want the unemployment rate, which is going to be the most important thing, to be around 3.9%. If it's a little bit lower, this could be kind of decent for the market. If it's too high, this could lead to some fears. So just be a little bit careful in looking at this data. Now, when it comes to other things, I just want to mention that SPY has about 1 million puts expiring and just under 600,000 calls expiring. Now, even though you may think that this may have to lead to a massive short squeeze, that's not always a guarantee. It is a possibility that the market makers could try to squeeze shorts, but Max Payne is actually at 451. It's well below where we currently are. So if we do see a squeeze tomorrow, I just want to mention that if that's the case, the market makers could technically benefit, but at the same time, there are almost no puts that are out of the in the money. Sorry about that. In the money just for tomorrow. So if we do get some kind of like little pullback at the end of the day, the market makers will be just fine as long as SPY is above like 451. They're going to be fine. So it doesn't really matter as much. So we'll just see what this causes, but I want to break down something more about this later on. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla shares have been put on the Danish pension funds exclusion list. This is a big piece of news involving what's happening with the view of Tesla and the strikes. We're seeing this spreading to Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, and that's very, very important. On top of all of this, I just want to mention that the Swedish court has ruled against Tesla in the labor dispute, and this is very important because now seeing this going on, Tesla is forced to now join in and just try to like negotiate, try to come to an agreement because this is technically hurting Tesla in some parts of Europe, and the ports being blocked will continue to be very hurtful as well. So now the Swedish pension funds are urging Tesla to sign an agreement with the union. Uh, if not, they're going to continue to sell off the shares and just continue to get in Tesla's way. So I think that the best thing for Tesla to do is just negotiate, come to an agreement, and then help solve this problem. On top of all of this, there's some news coming out that Tesla shares the 48 volts, basically the architecture right over here, which is going to once again continue to change the industry. And this is very, very good for them because this is the electrical system that they're going to be implementing in the Cybertruck. It's going to be using this in its entirety because that's going to be more efficient from its different systems. This is going to give it more power. And on top of this, it's like really, really cool when you look at the more specific details. So with this new electrical system, this is going to have control over the power windows, the interior lighting, and things like that. Good for them, and I think that's a very, very interesting piece of technology. Now, on top of all of this, I just want to mention that the volume was 107 million, a bit below average, nothing too crazy overall. And Tesla is once again said to be outperforming Wedbush according to the reports. I'm sorry, it's going to be outperforming according to Wedbush, according to the reports. So the price price ratio is kind of flat. Tesla's still holding up decently. Fridays tend to be green only about 49% of the time, so it's kind of 50-50. December tends to be weaker, but I think that we're going to have a very strong end to December for the year for the stock market. So Tesla's going to have a very strong year for December, a strong month for December as well. And on top of that, look for seasonality at 11 and then around noon and then 2 o'clock p.m. for more hourly seasonality slash volatility. Now, what do I see for Tesla in the markets? I'm going to be very quick with this part. As far as Tesla goes, I think that this head and shoulders may ultimately be like a trap that's being set for investors if we don't end up losing this yellow trend line. And so far, Tesla held it. I warned you guys that yesterday Tesla might test the trend line, and I think it may happen again. But what I'm thinking is that for tomorrow, it's going to depend on the data. We could see another pop on Tesla, but notice the trend where Tesla pops and drops, kind of popped and dropped today and then held up. So I think we might see Tesla pop again going into tomorrow. We could try to make our way up to 244. If we break the highs up here, then the next target is going to be this blue trend line close to 250. So if we break these highs around 247, then 250 is next. But I don't know if it's going to go that high. But I think it's going to pop in the morning, come back down as time goes on, and we might see Tesla actually pull back a bit and retest this yellow trend line. And I don't know if we're going to break this trend line so soon. I think that a little pop and drop is expected for Tesla. The drop may not happen until later into Friday, if not by Monday. And then this is very important because on Tuesday, so Monday is going to be the last trading day until CPI comes out on Tuesday morning before market open. So I think that CPI is going to determine before market opens on Tuesday which way Tesla goes. If we get some kind of monstrous bounce like this, we break out to like 260 plus. In that case, this head and shoulders could just be a trap. Or if the head and shoulders truly plays out and CPI brings Tesla back down towards like 230, that's going to be determined by CPI. But until CPI comes out, I think Tesla's going to maintain this range. A little pop and drop would be anticipated, and I think it's just going to continue to hold around these levels. So we could see Tesla try to push up to 244. If that breaks, watch it try to get close towards these highs, 246 or so. If those highs break, 250 is the next target, but I don't know if it's going to go that high. I think it might pop a bit and then come back down. And like I said before, it might pop to one of these levels, then come back down. Make sure you watch support at 240. Then we have 238 below that. I think the yellow trend line at 238 could get retested. So I think it might pop and drop like this. And then whether or not we kind of like break out and get a massive bounce or just end up dropping will be determined by CPI on Tuesday. When it comes to SPY, I want to call out something very similar. On SPY, we've been range bound for the last couple of weeks, right? Going back and forth and back and forth. We tend to have some supply between 458 and 460, and we have demand between 453 and 455. Now, on SPY, I want to call out that we have this big gap below. If we pull up the 30 minutes time frame, let me just hide the extended hours just to show you. We have this gap down here around this 455 area that also aligns with the 50 EMA on I believe it's the 4 hour time frame. So that could be a target for some downside, but we'll have to see if we get one more push thanks to like max pain and all the options and the data before we come back down, or if we end up breaking out. But here's how I'm going to go about this. So if we close above or hold above 460, we're going to be very bullish. We're going to be breaking out. But historically, when we hit 458, 459, almost 460, we do have a tendency of getting rejected for now. And I'm thinking that we might continue to get rejected and we're not going to truly break 460 or break below our range support at like 453. We're not going to get a breakout until after CPI. So I think what's more probable is we might pop a little bit more. We could see it get close to like 459 to 460. Then a rejection could be coming later into Friday, if not by Monday. And then after that, CPI will determine if we continue to sell off or if we get a big monstrous bounce. CPI is going to determine if we break out like this to like 4 all the way up to like the 460s, or if we end up breaking down to 450 flat or below that, right? So that's what I'm seeing for the markets as the most probable possibility. If a person wants to short at these high levels, it's a risk you could take for fun or based off like the risk management and the levels and the technicals we're seeing. But just know that if we break and hold for 60, that's like where a stop could be triggered. This is just a possible short opportunity if you're willing to take the risk. I also am not like if I were to short here, I would not just like short for just 0 day to expirations. I would wait like at least a week, give them at least a week just to give them some time. So the most probable possibility is either we kind of like reject here and come down, or we pop one more time to 459 to 460, then come back down. And then if we do come down, maybe into Friday, we kind of sell off a little bit at the end of the day. And then by Monday, we get a bigger sell off to fill this gap down here at 455. Then I think we could bounce after that. And then Tuesday is going to determine if we get a bigger breakout or if we end up sinking. That's what I find to be very probable. This the way I kind of drew this out. That's what I'm predicting. But just to be safe, If we break 460, we're going to be very bullish. If we end up losing the orange trend line, we're going to turn a lot more bearish. If we like continue to break below it and we break and hold below it and close below it multiple times. But for now, the market has been range bound. We may continue to be range bound for the next couple of trading days. And I think that we could be watching for a nice bounce later on. So watch for that very carefully on SPY. On the QQQ, uh, if we're bullish on the QQQ, if you want to break out, you want to see this thing get above 391. If we break that, watch 393 and a break above that. If we're bearish, you want to see it basically kind of like reject like this, or maybe pop into this range and then reject back down. I think that that's most likely what's going to happen, but I'm not extremely bearish. To be extremely bearish, you need to see us lose 383. We need to lose the support at 383 and start breaking down. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that CPI is going to determine if that happens or if we get a big bounce. So what do I think is going to happen? If we're bullish, I'm not going to be, too bearish or too bullish. But if you think we're going to be bullish, you want to see it break and hold 393. If you're bearish or you think that it might reject where it historically rejects, we've rejected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, almost 6 times off this 391 level. There have only been like one or two instances where we got a little above it before coming back down. So there's a good chance we might reject based off technicals. So watch it very carefully. The data is also going to impact this, so watch for that as well. But like I said before, guys, I think that a pop to 391 and a rejection is a possibility, followed by a bounce, and then CPI will determine if we push higher or not. Or we could push, a little bit more and then come back down. I find that to be very probable. If with all these puts expiring on SPY in the market, if we do hold up just for a bit, we could still come back down by Monday. That's still a possibility. And that's why I said that if I were to short, I would give the options some time. When it comes to Nvidia, in my opinion, has potential to push up a little higher, but we're going to be watching to see if this rising wedge ends up playing out. So, do we continue to push a little higher? We could try to make our way back to this imbalance at around this like 472 area, then reject back down to like 457, or we could just break out from the rising wedge right here and then make our way back up. We'll be watching this very carefully to see if Nvidia breaks out. If you want to be bullish on Nvidia, you want to see it try to get back above 475. If it breaks that, it's going to start pushing up nicely. That is a possibility, but we'll just have to wait and see. My gut is telling me there's going to be like a pop and drop coming, and I think that we might get one more little sell-off to fill some of our gaps below, because the market could be getting ready for like CPI, and this would be very healthy if anything. On Apple, I see something very similar developing. We could see a little pop and drop, or kind of like a drop from here. Uh, Look for a topping process between 194 to 195 and then a rejection back down to 192.5, either tomorrow or by Monday. Or we can pop a little bit more, hold up for a bit. We could peak between 196 and 197, then come down, and then eventually make our way back down to like 192.5. I find these both very probable. I think that this one right here is more probable where Apple might cool off a bit, but then we could get a monstrous bounce after CPI or just continue to sink. So watch this all very, very carefully. With that being said, guys, I went over the main five. I'm going to be very, very fast with the last couple of tickers because I'm running kind of late right now. For the IWM or the Russell 2000, just want to note that this thing could be in a topping process. If we do come down, watch 184.4 and even 183 before a bounce, but it's still range bound and we could get a bigger break after CPI comes out. For Microsoft, look for a potential rejection. We're at resistance very close to 372, so maybe we touch 372, then reject back down towards 368, if not 365, and then bounce. So a pop and drop is very probable for Microsoft. Just a couple more for the VIX. There's no sign of this thing truly breaking out yet. Let's see if this thing tries to get back above this 20 EMA. We still have this gap down here. It could drop a bit because the market pops a bit more and then it eventually tries to break out. But we do have a bullish cross in the PPO. We could see the VIX try to push a little bit later on if there is a little pullback coming. For Coinbase, this thing may reject. We have this gap to fill down below, and I could see it actually test 128 before it tries to bounce. So I find that very probable for a little pullback on it. For Google, it's holding up very nicely. We got some bullish news. Watch it come down towards 136 and bounce and try to push up for 142. So watch that very, very carefully. I think I skipped AMD. I know a lot of people are interested in that. AMD has broken out. It has more upside coming. There's no sign of it breaking down yet. But remember, on the weekly time frame, we have some tight resistance at 132.8. Could push for 132 and then reject. So watch that very carefully. The chart still looks kind of bullish on AMD. On Amazon, Amazon, in my opinion, is looking a little weak in the after hours. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon kind of pops and drops, makes its way back down to 145 before it tries to bounce. So 144 to 145 could be tested before it tries to bounce. And finally, for Meta, it got a big push up, but it's going to retrace just a little bit to cool off in the RSI. Watch for a 322 retest and then a break to the upside. The chart looks bullish, however. I think it looks bullish. It might come back down to the 200 EMA and then bounce after that. The chart is looking bullish overall. So a little pullback and a bounce looks very probable on Meta. I really like the setup and it looks quite good. With that being said, guys, thank you all so much for listening. As far as Tesla goes, there could be a pop and drop coming, but we'll just be watching our range for the time being, and we'll see how it goes. Make sure you watch your levels and get ready for the economic data coming out an hour before market opens tomorrow. And then we will see if the market does see like a very, very healthy little pop and drop. But then whether or not we break out of our ranges on SPY, on Tesla, and etc., is not going to be determined by tomorrow. I think it's going to be determined by CPI. So CPI will determine if SPY ultimately breaks above and holds 460, or if we end up sinking below 453. We'll be watching, guys. Do what you have to do. Take care. Hopefully this video was helpful, and peace out.